Welcome to our weekly meditation conversation. Welcome, everyone. If you would like to use music, you can get that playlist ready. Otherwise, there's no need. So let's start with a meditation like we usually do. So you can get that playlist handy if you want to use it while we sit. Otherwise, let's close our eyes, start to settle into our seat. You can become aware of your body. Feel your connection to the earth through your feet. And let's just start with a relaxation technique. So let's take a big inhale. As we exhale, imagine this wave of relaxation washing down our body, starting at the top of our head, just washing down all the way through our body. Let's take another deep inhale. And once again, on the exhale, just allow that wave of relaxation to wash down our body, washing away all stress, all tension. Just let it all wash away with the breath. Take one more deep inhale. And once more, just let that relaxation wash down your body. And so while we sit for the next couple minutes, continue to allow that relaxation to happen. You can, if you want, you can continue to imagine that wave starting at the crown of your head and washing down your body with your exhales. Or you can just sit and just allow yourself to continue to relax, whatever works for you. And so if you'd like to use music, you can hit play now. Otherwise, we'll be back in a few minutes. Slowly begin to deepen your inhale, bringing your consciousness back into the body. When you're ready, you can open your eyes and rejoin us. How's everyone doing? Good. All right, great. Um, Before I start, is there any questions or comments? Anything on your mind? All right. Well, I can jump in and start talking then. The idea I wanted to talk about tonight is the illusion of separateness. And I'm sure this will be a lot of kind of review material for you guys, but I think there's some interesting things we can talk about here that might even be a new way of looking at things for you guys. Um, so a lot of what I'm talking about right now, a lot of this comes from Alan Watts, from his Just So collection of seminars. And so this idea of this illusion of separateness. And so we're kind of conditioned from birth, where the way we're raised, the way we're brought up, we're kind of trained to see ourselves as separate from the world, right? I think a lot of us, we have this idea that we're this kind of sack of meat and skin and water here, and this isolated consciousness inside this little meat bag. And that's kind of how we go through life, right? And the world is a dangerous place, and it's a very competitive place. And we may have kind of our tribe, right, that we grow up with, that can exist on many different levels, from whatever whatever group of us we can be. Sometimes we find ourselves as part of some little group of us, whether that's a family or maybe your neighborhood or a town or a school, depending on how you grew up. And there's also other ideas of colleges and states and the company we work for, maybe, and the country we live in. So there's all these different levels of, or all these different little kind of groups that we may be part of. And sometimes with other people in these groups, we may cooperate with them to, if there's a way we can mutually benefit each other, we might cooperate with other people in this, whatever groups we find ourselves in. And then there's whatever, so however we define our group, there's always the outside group, right? There's the others out there, there's us, and then there's them, whatever level you define that on. Could be, right now there's a big us and them between political groups within our country, and that's a very big us and them right now, even though we're all part of one country and one level. But even so, within that, so there's all these different levels of isolation and divide, right? And but at the kind of the heart of it, we may have a family that we're real connected with, or a partner. There may be a small kind of nuclear family that you do really feel like you're a part of, but by and large, we kind of go through life with this idea that we're these separate entities, right? And um, that's kind of without even really trying to, that's what our culture teaches us growing up. That's kind of the underlying default assumption, that underlies most of our culture, most of the messages in our culture. And that's because our culture evolved out of nature, and evolved out of animal culture. And if you look at nature, even though on one level it's completely harmonious and in balance, but within that balance, there's lots of suffering, still lots of competition, I mean, nature is, even though it's beautiful and harmonious, it's still a struggle to survive. And we evolved out of that struggle. And so we still have that message of struggle and isolation and conflict that's still very prominent within our understanding of the world, within, especially as we learn from the dominant culture that we grow up in. And So you may have heard some ideas about interconnection and interdependence depending on your religion. And I mean, all of you guys at some point you started getting exposed to yoga and meditation. So th later in life, you might start hearing these messages that have a different meaning or different core, that there is some kind of connection and interdependence between all of us. But we have to, all of those messages have to kind of undo the programming that's inherent in our in the real the deep seat of our understanding, right? We have to unlearn the messages of isolation and separateness. Um, and so one way to think about this that's kind of useful, that I've found useful, is that even just on a purely physical level, not even talking about energy or other dimensions or other realms or anything, even if you just examine our existence on a purely physical level, you can see that the idea of separation isn't just an illusion. So I mean, we may think that this is our body, right? And this is us, we're separate from the world. But if you really try to look at where that line is, it starts to get kind of fuzzy. Because if you think about it, at this very moment, there's gas exchange going on within our lungs, right? So every time we breathe in, our lungs fill up with fresh air, and then oxygen diffuses across into our bloodstream, and carbon dioxide diffuses back across from our lung cells into the air, and then we expel that carbon dioxide. So there's this constant interplay of gas molecules coming in and out of our body all day long, constantly. And so there's this constant exchange with our environment, just in this one level of gas molecules of oxygen and carbon dioxide. And then also where our bodies are perspiring, or we lose water through our skin. So there's water coming out, and we absorb other things through the air. And so if you just think about those oxygen molecules that we breathe into our body, and then they get absorbed into our skin, and then they get absorbed into other molecules as part of the chemical reactions that turn glucose into energy. So if you think about on the level of that oxygen molecule, it's like where is the line when it ceases to be part of our environment and becomes part of us? Is it when we breathe it in? Is it when it goes into our bloodstream? Is it when it becomes reacts with another molecule and becomes part of a bigger molecule within our bloodstream? It's like where exactly in that line of events does that molecule cease being part of the environment and become part of us? Do you see what I'm saying? How if you really look at it at a level, at a physical level, the line is blurry. I mean, it seems like it's really cut and dry where we begin and where our environment ends. But if you think even food, right, throughout the day, there's a constant, or depending on your eating habits, maybe more or less constant flow of food and water into our bodies. And then there's waste that comes out of our bodies. And so there's this constant flowing of material into our bodies from our environment and out of our bodies. I mean, most of the waste just goes in the toilet. We never really think about it again. But if you just looked around your bedroom, probably with a magnifying glass, there'd be your hair would be on the ground, your dead skin cells from your skin would be all over the ground in your environment. So even there, it's like where is that fine? Where is that firm line between you and your environment? If pieces of you are hanging all over the floor in your environment of your bedroom, like how separate are you really from your environment? So so this is just kind of an interesting way to think about it. I think to think about just how we're not so separate from our environment as we think we are, as even though uh, on the surface, at an obvious level, it seems like clearly we are here and our environment is there. But when you really examine it, it's not so clear cut. And at least for me, that helps kind of give me a different perspective on just my relationship with the world, and how it's really hard to define ourselves without the environment, right? If you took any of us and put us anywhere else in the universe, we'd die within seconds. It's like we can't live without our environment. And even we can't really define ourselves without our environment. So you think about, I mean, even if you accept the idea that this is my body, so this is my hand, and then, so we only know where our hand ends by where the space begins, right? Without this space around my hand, I wouldn't know where my hand ends. So we tend to have a very dismissive view of space, right? We think objects are important, right, in our environment. We think like this is a computer, there's a desk here, I'm sitting in a chair, there's a window there. These objects are all very important, but there's all this space in between the objects that we tend to just kind of ignore, right? All this air that we think that's just empty space. We don't think of that as being something real or something existing. But at the time in between me and this computer screen, there's this space that fills it in. So even at that level, am I really separate from this computer screen? If I'm touching this space and the space is touching the computer, am I really separate from the computer? So, um, so yeah, it's just at least I found thinking about it like this kind of helps, um, just on the even on the physical level, helps break down those concrete perceptions we have of how isolated we are from everything around us. And just one more illustration of the importance of space, of empty space. All right, so here's an example from sound. So I'm going to make a sound and then ask you guys about it. So just bear with me here with this example. So, all right, so what was that? How would you describe that? No wrong answer. Someone chime in. What was that?
A whistle.
Right. Yeah, it was just a whistle, right? It was just kind of one boring note, right? Doesn't really have much meaning, doesn't really, not that exciting, not that interesting. Okay, so compare that noise to this noise I'm gonna make. So what's the difference between those? Can you hear those noises, first of all? Did you hear that? So what's the difference between that second message, the second noise,
It was more complicated.
right? How is it more complicated? What made it more complicated than the first noise?
Varying notes.
Right. I'll make both of them again. So on. So that's one noise. And here's the second one.
Oh, there's space in between.
Bingo. Yeah. And that second one, there's spaces. So it's the same note, the same tone, and this for the same about the same length of time. But the second one, there was those spaces in there. And did um anyone notice what signal that what space that what noise that was? That the signal? It was the SOS signal. I don't know, guys, if you could pick that up. But so, you know, I would say maybe it's beyond not your generation. I mean, I don't know, maybe I just learned that as a kid growing up. The SOS signal, like dot 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 dot. Oh, anyway, that's in Morse code, that's SOS. But anyway, the point I was trying to make is by adding the space, it totally changed. It gave meaning to this otherwise meaningless noise, right? And so, but what made it have that meaning was the space in between the notes. Because without space, there's just isness. Without emptiness, you can't know what being is without the lack of being. So anyway, I don't know how helpful that example was. Um, but so any questions or comments about this idea of the
That was
illusion?
very helpful. That was very helpful. The example.
Yeah, good. And Does this I mean, is this a new idea for anyone, or is it helpful to think? I mean, I'm sure you guys are all aware of the idea that we're not really separate, we're all connected. But thinking about it just on that physical level, does that help at all? Is that yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, it superimposes everything that we're learning with meditation and yoga.
great, cool. Yeah. I mean, I hope it makes it seem like not such a far out idea that separation is illusion. Even if you, because if you just look at it from a purely scientific level, it's true at that level too. Even though it's all matter of perception, even though it looks like everything's separate, that there are these clear distinctions between us and our environment. Really, those separations are fuzzy if you look at it from the right perspective. Great. So any other questions or comments about that idea?
Well, I guess I would agree also, Matt, that whole thing that what I feel right now that's sort of going on out in the world is this, like the way you're describing is sort of like a separateness. And it's like it keeps people kind of in this tense kind of fear condition. And then once you kind of relax into that thing, that it's like, well, that's my stuff too, in its strange way, because in, like you're saying, in this spacious piece is you really are connected to everything. I mean, I've noticed it, that I've been kind of agitated lately with the news, and so we haven't been watching the news a lot. And I feel better when I don't have to hear all those crazy stories over and over and over again. But it's so interesting because it seems like part of the thing that's happening, like with the politics, is that business where it's like if you can create this thing where it's us and them, then what the thing is, it's we are intentionally separating ourselves from other people rather than finding the things that where we cross paths, or we agree, or where we both feel good about stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, politics right now is fueled on separation, right? The divisiveness of it. That's what's that's what politics has become about. It's not even about the issues anymore. It's just about us versus them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks. All right, let's go ahead and meditate one more time. And we'll kind of play with this idea of separation. So once again, if you want to use music, you can get that ready. Let's settle into our seats and close our eyes. And so let's bring our awareness to our bodies. So I was talking before about where that the the border of our body starts. So let's see if you can feel it. See if you can feel the edges of your body. Feel your skin. Feel where your body is in relation to space. And see if you can feel where your body stops. If that makes sense. Just kind of just let's just sit with that for a moment, feeling the edge of our body, the edge of our physical body. And now see if you can feel outside of your body. So see if you can become aware of or just feel the space around your body, just the immediate vicinity of your body, just the area right around your body. Can you feel that? Can you feel the area, space around you? Then see if you can spread that awareness out even further to take in the room around you. Can you feel the edges of the room? Can you feel your awareness expanding out into the empty space in the room around you? Then maybe can you go beyond the walls around you? Can you keep expanding your awareness? Keep can you continue to feel out beyond the building you're in? Feel the world out there. You feel the outside. So while we sit for the next few minutes, just focus on your awareness of you, and focus, just see if you can hold your awareness outside of your body. If you can become aware of maybe even the whole world out there. Can you feel it out there? Just while we're sitting in the next few minutes, just be very aware of what you feel from the world around you. Maybe you can kind of go back and forth from feeling your body expanding out, feeling the room, feeling the world. Then maybe bring that awareness back in to just the room, just your body. So just while we sit for the next few minutes, be aware of your perception of yourself. And once again, slowly deepen your inhale as you come back to the body. Bring that awareness back within your body. You're ready, you can open your eyes and rejoin us. So how was that technique? Did anyone have any interesting perceptions of themselves in space?
So for me, it was like it kept changing a little bit, right? Like if I'm exhaling, then I felt like I was like taking up more space, or inhaling, I'm taking it, I'm like expanding, and then you're exhaling, you're contracting. And then it's like, oh, I should drop my shoulders and lift my head. So I'm like, oh, where I thought I was contained here, I actually had movement. And then I was kind of playing with the breath of as far as like how far can I follow it out? And like, is it me when I'm breathing in? Like it was just this whole thing of like the air in the room, and at what point does it become my breath?
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So I had never thought of this in my whole life before. So I'm like, okay, so how far can I follow it out? How far can I follow it in? And and yeah, and then just when I thought that I was like, okay, this is the space and the shape that I take up, like with any micro adjustment, then you're like, oh, I'm like an amoeba. Like you,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Amoeba awareness, yeah.
Thank you.
Cool. What about anyone else? Did anyone, could you kind of feel that? Can you sense awareness outside your body? I mean, anyone else? Anyone have any other comments?
Yes, I have a comment. I still always struggle for the vocabulary to describe what's happening here. But first off, I'm so grateful for all of you, and I'm so in awe of our connection, and it's so great to feel that connection to you guys. And I had a dream last night, and you were all in it, and that happens on a very regular basis, and it's really kind of profound. Um, Again, struggling for the words. I'm still coming very far away from what I was before October. And it's very fascinating that I understand pain. And actually, meditating with all of you in a group in October was sensory overload for me. But I've learned how to process that better now. And I could actually now go on to understand pain, even and suffering. And there's a sense of contentment and beauty in accepting that chaos. And so there's this vision of the wall that I couldn't get past. And now I'm past that wall. And I don't know what it's like on the other side, but I know it's where I belong. And these meditations and the vocabulary that is forming and our connections, which are strengthening every day, obviously through dreams too, is just making it easier to sense everything and how we are all connected to everyone and even the space outside of our body, which I just felt. Thank you for the guided meditation, because I didn't realize that I could connect to the space outside of my body, and it was cool.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Yeah, so I hope, and it sounds like this idea is getting across about how our idea of ourself is very much a matter of our self-determined perception of ourselves, right? So I talked before about kind of on the physical level about how the where we end and where the world begins is blurry, is fuzzy. But it goes even deeper if you talk about now on like the non-physical realms. I mean, just if you want to talk about, say, energetically or spiritually or however you want to conceive of that notion, the idea that we aren't just individuals on a planet, that we grew out of this planet, and the planet grew out of the solar system, and the solar system grew out of the galaxy grew out of the universe. So we're kind of just one continual process from the Big Bang all the way until now, and we'll continue to be part of this process until the universe ends and then blows up again in another Big Bang. So it's all just this continual process. And even though, and I think there's a kind of a growing awareness of this, as and seems like our cultural understanding of existence is evolving as we continue to evolve. And so even though we came out of this, we evolved from nature, which is very competitive and scary and very much struggle to survive. But it seems like there's this growing, evolving awareness among people now that all of our individual awarenesses are evolving, and that's also seem to be part of a broader kind of cultural or evolution of our cultural understanding. And there's more and more people are feeling this and becoming aware of this, that we are all connected. And so hopefully we can move towards some kind of different kind of existence where it is more cooperative than competitive. And I think we're seeing some signs of this in the world already. So I'm just been becoming aware of this whole, the transformational music festival scene. It's kind of more in the yoga festival scene, all that. It's more than just about yoga and music and stuff like that. It's kind of a model for a different way of humans interacting with each other, a way of interacting based more on cooperation than competition. And so we're seeing like these little isolated bubbles of communities and festivals, things like Burning Man and Envision in Costa Rica, and even just like this little breathwork retreat I went to for the weekend. There are all these little pockets of um, pockets of a different agreement among people about how we're going to interact with each other. We can interact in a way that's cooperative, and we can accept each other for who we are instead of demanding that everyone else fall into these pre-described roles of that come from our culture and come from our family heritage or cultural or national heritage. I mean, there's a growing idea that it doesn't have to be the way it was. It doesn't have to be so painful. It doesn't have to be so isolating. It doesn't have to be so, we don't have to constrict ourselves and deny ourselves so much. We can live in a world where we're allowed to be ourselves and express ourselves and work together with other people instead of just competing with each other and just trying to earn as much money as possible. So anyway, I have hope that we are in a process of evolution that's leading towards a better future. But who knows what will happen? We may destroy the planet before we get there. So we'll see. But there at least is, I don't know, I kind of think at any given moment it's about 50-50 whether or not we're going to make it. So
But do you think our chances get better if we try a little harder? I think
definitely, yeah.
just staying engaged raises the chance a little bit.
Yeah, even just us here getting together like this and talking like this, that improves the odds of the world surviving.
Totally.
Yeah. Mhm. And yeah, and it is kind of up to each of us, and even how we live our own life, how we go through our own individual days. Are we living as we go through our day, are we bringing more connection into the world and more light and more love, or are we bringing more isolation and more pain and fear? It's kind of up to each of us on a daily level how we decide how we're going to interact with the world.
Personal choice.
Exactly. Yeah. Great. Any other questions or comments about that? No? All right. Let's meditate one more time. This time, let's go back to our old favorite heart chakra meditation. So once again, you can use music if you'd like. You can get that ready. But otherwise, let's get settled in our seat. And now, this meditation invite you to imagine you're holding your heart in your hands in front of your chest. And as you inhale, you can breathe in love from the universe, love from that empty space all around us that's not actually empty. Breathe in love from God, or however you want to imagine the source of love. So just breathe that love in on the inhale. As you exhale, blow that love into your heart, filling your heart with love and warmth and compassion. So we can just do that while we sit here for the next few minutes. Imagine breathing in love from the universe. And then as you exhale, exhale that love into your heart, filling your heart with love. Slowly, once more, deepen your inhale. Bringing your awareness back into this physical body. When you're ready, you can open your eyes, join us. So how's everyone doing? Good.
I want to share something.
Great.
So I have been experimenting with this at work. So I like what you said, cooperative versus competitive. I'm sorry for the echo because I've got two things going, right? Is it echoing?
Yeah.
Sorry.
But the one is muted, so it should. Oh.
But anyway, I've been experimenting with an individual at work, and I have been unrealized. I didn't realize it, but I've been doing a very cooperative stance with this person, and I'm getting like wonderful results because of it.
Mhm.
And I'm actually getting like love from this other person.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to share that. I was meditating on that.
Oh, great. Yeah, and I think you'll find that if you start changing how you approach the world, you can find more cooperation out there. When we approach the world cooperatively, often we'll find that people are happy to meet us with that cooperation. I mean, not always. There are still some people who are stuck in that competitive mindset. But sometimes it just takes one person making that gesture first. Someone has to kind of open up first, and then oftentimes the other person's willing to reciprocate. So it's a great thing to experiment with, Helen. So thanks for sharing. Great. Any other final questions or comments? Great. Well, hope everyone has a wonderful evening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you, Matt. Nice to
Thank
see
you.
everybody.
Yeah,
So great to see everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for a couple weeks there, it was only Carla. So thanks for Carla for hanging in there.
It's like I tried to be quiet now. I got lots of airtime on the last ones.
Yeah, but yeah, it's great to see all of you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
so
Ken.
you guys, like, 2 months, less than 2 months till the reunion.
Yeah, can't wait.
I know. So I know, so good.
Yep.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank
Good
you,
to
Matt.
see everybody. Love
Thanks,
everybody.
Good night, you guys. I'll see you in my
Bye.
dream.
everyone.